Good afternoon, friends. First, let's travel to the United States where there was a fire in a historic hangar at a Marine Corps Air Station in California, more specifically in the city of Tustin. Flames engulfed this 17-story hangar and the fire had to be extinguished both from the ground and from the air. Several firefighting helicopters were deployed to fight the blaze, as there was a danger of the fire spreading to a neighboring hangar where airships from World War II were stored. After a large-scale fire, the first hangar, which, incidentally, was built of wood, partially collapsed, and only after that rescuers were able to approach it. So far there is no information about casualties or victims. The cause of the fire is currently under investigation. It is worth noting that the burned hangar was one of the largest wooden structures ever built in the United States, and it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It has also been seen in movies such as Pearl Harbor, Austin Powers, and Star Trek. In South America, more specifically in Brazil, there was an explosion and fire at the Cacau Show chocolate factory, which is located in the city of Linhas. Witnesses of the incident are actively sharing videos on social networks, which show the factory building engulfed in flames, and at a certain point an explosion is heard. It is reported that the factory building partially collapsed. Amazingly, despite the scale of the fire, no one was seriously injured. It is particularly remarkable that the rescuers managed to prevent the fire from spreading to houses in the surrounding neighborhood, which was a very critical situation. Firefighters managed to extinguish the fire and the area is currently being doused to avoid a possible flame outbreak. The cause of such a large fire remains unclear at this time. It is important to note that the Cacau Show factory is one of the key enterprises in the city, and this emergency could affect many local residents. China's Heilongjiang province has declared a red weather alert level due to the heavy snowfall that has hit the region. Local media reports that schools and universities have been temporarily suspended due to this bad weather, and the heating season has started earlier than usual. The province has already received 40 millimeters of snow, and this has caused flight delays at airports and collapse on the roads. To combat this disaster, all available forces have been mobilized. Due to the abundance of snow and high winds, there was a collapse of a local basketball court. According to the latest reports, at least 3 people died and 1 person was injured. Rescuers are now actively working, raking through the debris of the building and trying to find those who may be underneath. Details of what happened are still unclear and the investigation is ongoing. Due to this complex situation, residents and tourists are asked to stay inside their homes if possible and monitor developments. The western part of Saudi Arabia has recently experienced severe flooding and locals are calling the event a doomsday. The city of Jeddah, which is in the province of Makkah, received 179 millimeters of rain in 6 hours. The flooding has taken out trees, hundreds of cars and even people. So far, 2 deaths have been reported as a result of the disaster. Several provinces have been left without electricity and authorities have decided to close all educational institutions in the affected areas. According to the World Meteorological Organization, the average rainfall for November in this city is only 23 millimeters, and the average annual rainfall is 60 millimeters. In this case, as much as 90 millimeters of rain fell in just 4 hours. The flooding has paralyzed traffic, and locals have to literally swim across the streets. It is predicted that the cyclone will remain in Saudi Arabia for several more days. Emergency services are working around the clock, trying to restore the situation in the region as quickly as possible and provide assistance to the victims. A similar situation is observed in France. As a result of intense rainfall, the Pas-de-Calais department has literally turned into a temporary Venice. Local sewage systems cannot cope with the huge volume of water, and the streets are flooded. The first floors of houses, cars, as well as rail and air traffic were paralyzed. Authorities have declared a state of high alert as the rainfall has not yet stopped and the water level is gradually rising. According to the latest reports, at least 7 people have been injured and information about possible fatalities is being clarified. Meteorologists explain that everything that is happening is due to the remnants of Storm Karen, which reached the region last week. As a result, more than 1 million people in France were left without electricity and schools and universities were closed. Argentina has also experienced flooding, with the province of Corrientes suffering the greatest losses. Locals are now forced to use boats to get around in flooded areas. At least 600 people have been evacuated from flooded homes. Authorities are urging people to be extremely cautious and not to attempt to fight the disaster on their own. No injuries or casualties have been reported yet, and authorities have declared a red weather alert level. A few months ago, Argentina faced a serious drought when about 85% of the Corrientes River dried up due to high temperatures and lack of rainfall. Now the situation has changed dramatically and the region is experiencing heavy rainfall. No rainfall is expected in the region in the coming days and water levels are forecast to gradually decrease. The Artigas, Saldo, and Paysandú regions of Uruguay have experienced heavy rains that have caused severe flooding. The level of the Uruguay River rose above 7 meters, forcing thousands of people to leave their homes. Streets, highways, and many buildings were literally flooded. Local residents were in a panic, as meteorologists had not warned of such devastating effects of the rains. People simply did not have time to prepare, according to foreign media. The number of dead and injured is being specified. Scientists explain that such phenomena are related to climate change and the El Niño phenomenon, which changes the surface temperature of the Pacific Ocean. How long it will take for the region to recover remains in question. In the meantime, authorities are urging residents to prepare for evacuation and recommending that they carry the necessary survival gear. The water level in the Caspian Sea is on the decline, and such a conclusion was made by the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources of Azerbaijan. Over the past 5 years, the water level has decreased by 69 centimeters. And over the past 10 years this indicator has decreased by 1 meter and 14 centimeters. This raises serious concerns. Experts believe that the water level will continue to decline in the coming decades, and there's a risk that at some point the sea may cease to exist. Azerbaijan proposed to create an expert group that will study this problem and look for ways to solve it. It is important to note that other Caspian littoral countries have also supported this initiative. Scientists also warn about the potential geopolitical consequences of this process. The economies of countries that depend on fisheries and maritime trade could be seriously affected as a result of the decreasing water level in the Caspian Sea. This is a story of rescue and cruelty that took place in Uzbekistan, where a dog cruelly chained to railroad tracks was rescued. This story is horrifying and heartbreaking. This mongrel dog, whose name is Rita, was first brutally beaten and then left on the tracks, giving her a horrible fate. Fortunately, however, kind and caring people came to Rita's rescue before the train approached. Initial examination revealed that the animal had many injuries, both physical and psychological, due to the cruelty she had endured. Despite this, volunteers are hopeful that they will be able to help Rita and that over time she will begin to trust them and the world around her. This process will probably take a lot of time and effort. And finally, let's talk about the events in Kyrgyzstan. We are talking about the Kamtor mine, where work is ongoing. Every day gold is extracted from this mine, on average about 7,000 tons per year. This deposit was discovered back in the late 70s of the last century, and at that time there were about 320 tons of precious metal here. However, the development of this hard-to-access mine turned out to be an impossible task for the country, and its work had to be temporarily suspended until better times. After the collapse of the USSR, Kyrgyzstan started gold mining at the deposit, and foreign investors also provided assistance. In 2022, the Kamtor mine became fully owned by Kyrgyzstan, which is a significant event. Dear friends, what are your personal thoughts on the current situation on the planet, given the increase in natural disasters and geopolitical events? Don't you think that in humanity's endeavor to conquer nature and ensure its safety from natural disasters, we have crossed a certain line, and now the planet seems to be repaying us? Do you sympathize with ordinary people from different countries who suffer from disasters, or are our times characterized by harsher realities? Regarding the Caspian Sea, how do you see its future and what measures can be taken to improve the situation? And finally, what do you think motivates individuals to commit violence against innocent animals like the case in Uzbekistan? How do you perceive such events? Please share your opinions in the comments. May peace and goodness accompany you and your families, and do not forget to take care of yourselves and our common planet, always remaining decent people, with a capital letter.